guys, we'll go ahead and get started here. I know there's a couple more people that are logging in right now. So just welcome to the fourth listening session. We're doing this in celebration of the 7th annual National Apprenticeship Week. I'd like to introduce some really special guests, the first of which is Maria Brady, who is a multi-state navigator with the U.S. Department of Labor's office out of Dallas, Texas. So, I mean, we don't say we have favorite regional offices, but maybe we do. So that's Maria. Thank you for logging in, Maria. Her time is really valuable, especially this week with National Apprenticeship Week. We also have on the line Marianne Lawrence, who is a NADAP board member, as well as the lead of the task force that NADAP has on all things apprenticeship. So both Marianne and Maria were integral in getting the national standards developed for the workforce development professional registered apprenticeship. And anybody that has questions on that can let us know. We also have Judy Blanchard. She's with Sofil Partners. She is heading up our efforts with the Center of Excellence grant, and we will talk a little bit about that. But I just kind of wanted to welcome you guys and let you know how things are going to run today. We're going to do most of everything through the chat. So what we're doing with this Center of Excellence grant, our particular center, there's 4 centers. Our particular center focuses on strategic alignment and partnership with workforce development. Judy, you want to elaborate on that a little bit for me?
Sure. Thank you, Melissa. As Melissa indicated, Sofil is the lead partner on the Registered Apprenticeship Technical Assistance Center of Excellence, which is one of the 4 new Center of Excellences. And our center is very focused on strategic partnerships and systems alignment. So we're very, very excited about this opportunity to work with NADAP and some other national partners, and of course Maria and the Office of Apprenticeship at the Department of Labor will also be working with our state apprenticeship agencies, and our real focus is to understand what those of you that I'm going to say are at the regional workforce boards, boots on the ground, what do you need so that we can support your efforts in aligning registered apprenticeships with the workforce system, the education system, so collectively we can move using registered apprenticeship as what I'm going to call the premier and mainstream talent development model for our industry partners across the nation. So that's the work we have cut out for us in years, and it's going to be a great ride.
It is. It's going to, and NADAP has a vested interest in this because our entire mission is professional development. And so we want to make sure that we remove any barriers that there may be in any of the local areas or job centers on promoting and utilizing registered apprenticeship. So how we'll do this, if you guys have questions or comments that you would like addressed, go ahead and throw them into the chat. Some questions we may be able to answer right now. I mean, we have Maria with us and she's been able to do that for the past couple days. If it's something that we need to get back to you on, we can do that as well. Also, if you feel like there's a lack of training in a particular area, let us know too, because that's part of our work through this Center of Excellence. We're going to go through everything that the Department of Labor has as far as technical assistance that's been developed, desk aids. Maria actually sent some really great information this morning on work that she's done with the eligible training provider list in each state. And so we don't want to duplicate any efforts, but we also want to make sure if something already exists that you guys know how to find it. So that is super important to us as well. I'm going to go ahead and start with a couple questions. The first one being, is registered apprenticeship a priority in your local job center? And you can go ahead and just yes or no in the chat or offer any other comments. Also, if you don't feel comfortable commenting to the entire group, you can just change that to directly to me. Nobody else will see that comment except me, but it'll also help me kind of when I put all the data together. So we've got quite a few yeses that registered apprenticeship is a priority there. And I'm gonna ask this, and Marianne, I think that you are probably a good insight on this, and Maria as well. When I was working at the local level, we would talk about registered apprenticeship at board meetings. And when we would have staff meetings in the job center, we would talk about how important registered apprenticeships were, or sector strategies, or all of those buzzwords. But after that meeting was over, everybody just went out and did their job. How can we make sure that we take that priority, that enthusiasm, and really integrate it into what's going on? And I ask this because I know you're monitoring right now. So you're in the thick of things in a job center. I know that.
Well, and I just participated in their workforce board meeting this morning where they talked about registered apprenticeship. My gut reaction to it, working all over the country, is that they're somewhat afraid of it. Maria, we've had this conversation before. They think of it as being very complicated and difficult to make happen. I know in the instance of the workforce professional registered apprenticeship that we're working on, they don't feel like it's worth it all the time that it takes to have one or two people go through it. And so I think it's going to be important to streamline, kind of have an express kind of direction sheet that helps them streamline how to make it happen, or to figure out how to connect them with sponsors that can help them with it so that they don't have to go through the sponsorship.
Maria, anything?
May I? Absolutely, yes. In terms of they're afraid of it, I would tend to agree. Where I think, let me back up. I hear this a lot in terms of there's these great gatherings and everybody seems to be on the page and then everything falls flat. So where it doesn't is where there's very intentional and quick follow-up. And I will, and not just follow-up, hi, how you doing? Let's have coffee. It was great. No, I mean substantive follow-up, and many different kinds. And actually, I'm working with an intermediary organization right now, and I know that's kind of a big word, but we have contracts with a lot of entities to support expansion in particular industries. HCAP, or the Healthcare Advancement Program, they've been doing wonderful work in my region, and that one of the reasons why they actually get the numbers they do in terms of programs and apprentices is because I really like their follow-up. I mean, they walked, before we did a regional briefing with them, I had them do a briefing with me, and I said, okay, what do you got? What can you do? What can you offer us states before I turn you loose on the grantees? Give me that. So they do lots of follow-up right away, and I can talk more about that, but that's really key. You can't let it die. You gotta, snappy snap, strike while the iron's hot. What did Jack Welch say? Things get done when there's a maniac on a mission. Somebody has to be that maniac. It can't always be me.
Because if Maria's there, it will get done. So that leads me to another question, and something actually, Maria, that you sent. Again, just a housekeeping reminder for anybody. everything that we're talking about, we're gonna consolidate all of that information. We're gonna have a summary session tomorrow afternoon, same time, same link. We're going to send out links to anything that we reference as far as training guidance, those types of things, and maybe even some desk aids and some helps. But we talked a lot about the eligible training provider list, and we know that there's some things we can do that will work all across the country. But more often than not, everything depends on what state you're in, and even so what local area you're in. So Maria has a really great tool that basically goes through and asks those questions, and you can kind of check off the boxes of, is that training approvable, I guess. And Maria, we're going to go ahead and share that tomorrow during the summary, if you're okay with that. But give us kind of a background on why you developed that questionnaire. Oh, you're muted. We're going to try to unmute it.
Sorry, it kept giving me a big hand. It kept saying hi, and I'm like, I don't want to say hi, just open the, so repeat, I'm sorry.
Okay, so you sent us that great tool, like the questionnaire on the eligible training provider list. Give us some background. What problem were you solving with that?
Well, a lack of connection between, at the time, apprenticeship staff, regardless of OA, SAA status, that lack of connection to the workforce system. So a lot of apprenticeship staff, quite frankly, and this is my estimation, were feeling somewhat victimized by WIOA and the eligible training provider list. So to get them more involved in the process, I said, take a look at your state ETPL policy. Everyone has one, so I put together something that would make it easy and that would empower staff, to take a look at their policies. And some folks used it really well. Some folks used it and I said, no, I kind of disagree with everything you said, and let's talk about why. So it was a real learning opportunity.
Yeah, that's great.
And even though I did that in 2016, it's still relevant today, because I still read ETPL policies that are either have non-compliant provisions, they're fuzzy, they're confusing, or they're just inappropriate. So, we still run the gamut.
And we're going to try to put together some of those very similar to what Maria's done, if that one needs any modification. But one of the things that we want to make sure is that we want to remove any barriers that there are. So if there is a barrier at the local level, it probably wasn't intended to be a barrier. It was probably a policy that was enacted to do something positive. We just need to bring it to somebody's attention that that's a barrier to registered apprenticeship. So we're going to walk through some ways on how to do that in the future as well. Okay, let's go to a question, and let's talk about that, about consistency across the country. So registered apprenticeships have to have related training. Now be very careful of verbiage, guys, and what people are calling apprenticeships, internships, all of those. We're talking about registered apprenticeships. Registered apprenticeships have to have on-the-job learning and related training. Maria, back me up on that.
Absolutely. The regulations refer to it as related instruction, call it whatever you want, even RTI, but it's the educational or academic component. You must have both, otherwise you don't have a program.
And let's talk about the length of that training too. There's not a one size fits all. It really is dependent on the occupation. So I know that we went through that with some of our getting together our national standards, but some related training can be longer and some related training can be shorter, right, Maria?
Yes. Now, the shortest program, the shortest registered apprenticeship program in the United States today is going to be 1 year in length, what we consider 2,000 hours. So 2,000 hours is our 1 year. So like a 2-year program is 4,000 hours. Now, your program was kind of a hybrid, if I remember correctly. Okay, so it was a HY or a CB, competency based. I'm sorry. Oh, it was competency based. So now in a competency based occupation that basically would tend to be a year in length, it is possible for an apprentice to take longer or to take less time. But I need to caution everybody listening, and this is where sound bites can be deadly, because it is not correct to say that, well, in some registered apprenticeship programs, it's less than a year. That's really not correct. In a competency-based program, you're still going to come out with approximately a year. And yes, some apprentices may finish in 11 months, but that's the exception and not the rule.
Absolutely. Another question, it's been brought up in comments and in an email that I received. But what misunderstandings or objections do your business service reps hear from employers about registered apprenticeship? So I know, Rick, you had actually put in something in the comments about how to move selling that registered apprenticeship concept to the HR manager and it dying there, it never getting to plant management, operational management. You know, the HR folks hold a lot of power when it comes to that. So has anybody else run into that? What are some things that employers push back on? And Marianne, I know that you're actually working with some boards who are doing this. So do you have any insight on that?
Well, in terms of the pushback on it, HR feels like they need to be involved most of the time because of the legal issues associated with having employees and not displacing existing employees, et cetera. And so you're probably not going to get away from having HR people involved. But the key is to get to the production people. So try to have a joint meeting rather than just one-on-one with the HR person. If you're working with demand occupations in your local workforce area, then you probably have somebody influential on your board of directors from that occupation, from that industry, that can help you get that foot in the door. But it's important to try to get more than just the HR person.
And Melissa, can I jump in here real
Absolutely.
quick too? Just to give the audience today a little bit of background, prior to me coming on board with Sofil, I spent 15 years in the workforce system at the local and state level doing some work. And I had the privilege of managing business services teams, right? And so what I was hearing, and I come out of Florida, across the state of Florida, from our employers, is it takes too long to get a program together. It's very complicated. I don't have time to do the administrative work, and it's very expensive. Well, you know, we've also been hearing for probably the last 5 years, pre the pandemic, but now specifically post-pandemic, is I can't find the talent I need. And so being able to provide the business services teams the support, the toolkits, the collateral, the language, the training to facilitate these conversations with all of the players to move a registered apprenticeship forward is one of the things that the center is very, very focused on. But, you know, at the end of the day, you can keep buying your talent. And by buying it, I am talking about all that it takes to attract, recruit, and onboard and train talent. And the wages keep going up if you're stealing it from your competitors, or, you know, it's up to us to be able to show our employer partners a proven way that they can build their talent as well. So, you know, it's, I can't find them, but I have a tool for you to build them. We want to help you understand those tools to make it very simple for your business customers.
Melissa, can I say something?
Sure.
I'm out with employers the last 25 years, every day training at a different work site. So I'm working with plant managers, with VPs and HR managers, and scheduling is always the issue. Clearly, whoever brings up any program that we offer an employer has to be able to clearly outline the time investment that it's going to take, because time is money when we're talking to business. And sometimes we're talking like social, like we're social workers. We're not. We're there to support businesses, and they want to know exactly what time is being invested. And if many of them, for instance, in California, have been approached to apply for ETP, and if the consultant or whoever has approached them with this fantastic idea to bring in money to pay for training, but wasn't clear on the process and the time that it takes away from their everyday business practices, it's just not going to happen. And a lot of times they ask those questions, those business related questions, and I think the individuals talking to them really can't give them clear answers. And so they're afraid and hesitant to get into the process, because they have to go to their higher ups and they have to champion this. And sometimes they've been burned because they've said, okay, I was told we're going to get this much money in this much time. We're going to be able to do this, this, and that with it. And because the process isn't followed exactly, they get disallowances, and they got to go back and say, now we've spent that money, we spent that time, we did not get the results that we anticipated. And that kind of, leaves a bad taste for them. So I think it's really the competencies of those talking to employers and setting up the process with them. And that's why I'm very interested in having that expertise on a higher level, along with anybody, if we're going to get more businesses in line to do this.
Yeah, and I think that's something that is really important. Maria just put some return on investment information in the chat, but what's interesting is that business services are operated so much differently in every single state. You have states that have a business service rep in each local area. You've got states, or you've got some local areas who are so small they don't have a dedicated business service rep. That's just somebody that they've tagged that title to that has another job. Sometimes you have business service teams. Sometimes you're in a area where there's a large team. But what we want to make sure we can provide is how do you have a registered apprenticeship strategy and deploy that strategy in your local area, regardless of the setup that you have. And Maria, that's something that we'll probably really lean on Department of Labor for in how to do that, because those regional offices have some insight on how business services acts, or how those teams are set up in each of their states. And we talked about, I think on Monday, that most of us, myself included, I didn't have a sales background when I came into the workforce business. And I don't think that we have to sell some of the programs and products that we can offer to businesses and to job seekers, but we do have to be able to adequately communicate their benefits. And we have to do that clearly across the board. So, I think that that's super, super important. Maria, did you have something?
Yeah, tomato. I see that as selling. That's exactly what I mean. Communicating the benefits. What's the return on investment? How can I scratch your back? So, yeah, it depends. As a New Yorker, to me, that's selling.
Yeah. It definitely
Well,
isn't.
So it's really all about, and Maria put this in the in the chat, but it's really all about understanding the features and the benefits and
Yep.
being able to pitch those so that there's a what's in it for me for the business customers and for the apprentices.
And we have to take our business service relationship past a general email. So when I would communicate with my business service team and they would say, I'm working with company X, what that actually meant is that they would email company X every once in a while with some data or some possible things that they could do. They weren't aware that company X was going through a management change. They weren't aware that company X was getting ready to have a whole new shift come on. So when you say be very cognizant of those relationships, and working with a business is not emailing them when something new comes up that they need to help you with. We really need to take those relationships farther. And once we do that, we can have more open communication about the programs. And I think that there's more trust on registered apprenticeship and how that can benefit the employer. Okay, let's see, there were a couple more comments and a couple more questions here. Oh, let's talk about funding. So how many of you on the line have utilized WIOA funding to support any portion of a registered apprenticeship? Try to get some feedback on that. I know that we've heard in the past that registered apprenticeship wasn't something really at the top of the list to do co-enrollment on, especially if you have an employer who is the sponsor. And it's kind of wrapped up in a neat little package, but don't forget that WIOA can do so much more with supportive service and just career coaching. You know, Marianne preaches this almost daily on the career coaching side of that to support that employee through that apprenticeship. So there are a lot of reasons that co-enrollment can be a benefit.
One of the questions I get regularly from my customers is, when should I can't afford to pay for the whole apprenticeship
Great
because they're
question.
looking at paying on the job training portion of it. So what do I do? And too often I think they're paying the upfront part of it, and then they get out of it, and then it's not necessarily a positive exit. And so I always recommend, if they can't pay the whole thing, to really try to do the back end when they're closer to being done. Maria, do you have an opinion on that?
Say a little more, give me a little bit more specifics.
So if you've got an apprenticeship that's a 2-year program,
Right.
and your local workforce area, which I'm sitting in one right now that I always disagree with having a cap on how much they can pay. They have a $5,000 cap here, for instance. And
Okay.
so if they're paying $5,000 for on-the-job training, it's not going to last 2 years. So rather than pay for the first part of the apprenticeship project, pay for that toward the end of the project, when you would be part of it when they finished.
Yeah, but the issue with that is that they're not going to be eligible at that point if they're enrolled in workforce when they're already an apprentice. I guess there's something I'm not understanding.
Well, it's going to depend what their status is and what the eligibility criteria is, because they would be if they still had dislocated worker status. But,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
which I think we're going to
Absolutely.
run into a lot of now.
I think so too, especially with transitioning service members.
And I think that registered apprenticeship, that it happens. Here's another benefit of that. We're in a really weird state of the economy right now, where businesses are desperately looking for people, but we also have people who are shifting and changing. We've had people that are leaving the service industry because, you know, that definitely is up in the air and can be affected by the pandemic. We have people that are moving employers because of vaccine mandates. So we have a lot of people moving in and out of employers that normally wouldn't have been moving in and out of particular employers. And I think that we are going to have a lot of dislocated workers, Marianne. Dislocated workers, we all know, are great employees, and that's proven because they were just great employees. So it's an easy sell to get them back into something like this. But okay, so guys, it's 1:30. We need to wrap this up. These 4 sessions have been fantastic. We're talking about doing these more often. Again, just getting some buy-in from you guys. I'm going to gather everything that was taken in the chat across all 4 days. We're going to get that summarized, get that out to you guys. Join us tomorrow, definitely, if you can, for the summary session. I think Sofil has a special announcement that they're
Yes.
going to make.
We sure do. You don't want to miss it.
So we're excited. We're excited about that. Maria, thank you so much for your time that you have given us over these past few days. Maria has been invaluable to NADA and our work with Registered Apprenticeship. We really, really appreciate her. And I know this is a very, very busy week for any of those regional offices. And
My pleasure. My pleasure.
devoting that time is fantastic. But you guys have a wonderful Thursday. Join us for the summary session at the same time tomorrow if you can. And have a great day.
Thanks all. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.